Please join us in welcoming Ms. Marley Major as she presents her keynote, How AI Unlocks $1 billion opportunities by Eliminating Everyday Overwhelm. Ms. Major, the stage is yours.
Well, I certainly hope you like my presentation better than I liked my dancing that Peggy tried to teach me, because that did not work out very well for me. But I think we're going to have a great time here today, and I wanted to thank Senior Lecturer Mark Kramer for having me here and for doing this talk. One of the things I love the most is entrepreneurship. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built multiple seven-figure companies from the ground up. I've written a best-selling book, and if you stay to the end and pay attention, I'm going to give you a free copy of it. And I am just totally passionate in my DNA about creating entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. And at the core of entrepreneurship is solving problems, right? That's what we get paid to do. We get paid to think about things before anybody else thinks about them, and then we get paid to create a solution. Now, there has been a lot of talk, as we all know, about AI and how AI is going to take the jobs and we're not going to have a workforce anymore and everybody should be afraid. And I think that's the exact opposite. I've spent a good amount of time on your campus yesterday. I think I've taken, hundreds of photos. Everything on your walls says excellence. Everything boils down exactly how you're the best and you're the brightest. And based on what I've seen, I told your senior lecturer, Mark Kramer, that's my favorite title, by the way, that I would take all of you home with me. I am just so impressed. So let's jump in and let's create some amazing AI companies together for this hackathon. So my title is Solving Invisible Suffering. Oh, anybody can get up here and talk to you about AI and talk to you about, let's make a program that's going to do this faster or make this more efficient. But I think the true money will be made in the future is by solving invisible suffering. So let me set the lens for you, because it's important that you put on this pair of glasses. The biggest opportunities are going to come from invisible suffering. Why? Because we will do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. There's so many things out there with technology that have been amazing, but technology has made things a lot more complicated, and that's good for you, because there are a lot of people who cannot solve some of these complex problems and competing apps and programs, and that's where you all can come in. So I think the true opportunity in the future for your generation is not novelty. It's not just the next gaming app, although I think that's great. And it's not just efficiency. We've certainly seen that. But it's in creating relief. Because in creating relief is where the most value is going to be unlocked. And when value is unlocked, people will pay the most money. So what you're going to learn today is I'm going to give you a repeatable framework that you can literally take and start this hackathon, and you can just go through my framework that I'm going to teach you today and decide if you've got a great idea. I'm going to talk to you about the painstorm method and how you can identify your customer to fit into this invisible suffering. We're going to go through one case study, plus a little bonus case study that happened to me in the airport on the way over here. And then a 24-hour validation kit. You don't even need 24 hours to validate it. But this is something that you can take on not just this weekend, but 20 years from now. The principles are universal. So here's my core thesis. This is not about making things more efficient. It's not about getting an app to do something 10 seconds faster or 1 hour faster than a human can do it. It's about removing burdens that people never wanted in the first place, that people never saw coming, And a lot of these problems are Western problems. And why am I going to focus for a minute on Western problems? Because Westerners, and I can say this because I'm one of them, have a very low pain tolerance for the most part. We want things done yesterday, and we want things to be easier, and we want to take Ozempic and be skinny, and then we don't have to get on the bike anymore, all that stuff. Everything fast, fast, fast. And so my challenge for you is to start thinking about Western problems and to start thinking about global problems that you might not even understand. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples that you might say, well, I'm not in that role. And in business, one of the things we know is that you do what you know, right? If you do what you know, then you're much more likely to be successful because you're not guessing at it. What I'm going to ask you to do today is to not just maybe do what you don't know, but to put on those glasses and see the world as your end customer. So let me take you into this world. So first of all, I want to clarify what I think is the difference between efficiency AI and relief AI. So efficiency AI, we know, right? It's going to cut this amount of time, it's going to cut this amount of jobs. That's what the news is all hyped about, and everybody should be terrified. It's optimizing workflows. It's the same system, it's just let's do it better, stronger, faster. It's kind of like Six Sigma. How can we knock out a few seconds and make this a little bit better? But relief AI is much different. It removes responsibility from somebody who doesn't want it in the first place. It reduces cognitive load, and at the end of the day, stress, and we know all the negative effects of that, right? And so if you can make people happier, more relaxed, and calmer, you've got a big opportunity. But how do you do it? So invisible suffering is not on balance sheets. You don't usually see it as, oh, it's a number, a number counts on a how many people are on a team. But how it shows up as confusion, exhaustion, overwhelm. In the States, or my kids like to say that when I'm hangry, right, when I'm hungry, then I start getting angry, right? It's that same kind of thing when you don't feel right and you just feel really irritable. Why is that? And so how do we use that to drive behavior, to create a product or service so that someone will pay us a lot of money to make them feel better? Okay, so now here's the anatomy of invisible suffering. You've got unwanted responsibility. So you've got somebody in a position, and I'm going to give you a lot of very specific examples so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But you've got people in an unwanted responsibility that they cannot get out of. It's very important that the problem gets solved right away, or maybe they need money, or maybe a lot of times it's about time. They don't have any preparation for it, and they have very limited aptitude to solve the problem. Now, that sounds ridiculous for me talking to this group because I can't imagine what aptitude you all don't possess. But let's pretend there's something that you wouldn't be able to do well, okay? So there's a core mismatch with relief AI versus efficiency AI. Now, relief AI talks about a responsibility somebody didn't want in the first place. It's thrust upon them, but they can't get out of it. It's a system failure, it's not a personal failure. So it's not that the person is challenged or can't do something fast enough. They've never had a reason to learn how to do things better because they've never been in this role, and it's a role they didn't expect to be in. So I want you to think of different ways that things cost, okay? Because a lot of times, especially when we're talking about AI, we talk about costing money. Everything is money, right? It costs money. The most important thing, which you will realize as you get older, is the most valuable thing you have in the world is not money, but time. Because we can make more money, we cannot get more time. And what happens when we don't have enough time or we feel under pressure? We've got this cognitive load, right? We are in a situation with our family members that I'm going to go into in our case study where it's this brother and this sister are at each other, then what happens is you just want to avoid the whole problem in the first place. You're like, oh, I don't even want to deal with this. But remember what I said before, you have to deal with this, okay? So what do? You start second guessing yourself. You start saying, gosh, I was always really good at this, but I'm lousy in this new role that I don't want to be in the first place. But I've got to see through, whether it's for my family or for my company, whatever. And herein lies the key piece. The person wants to get out of pain and they want relief so badly that they will pay a premium. Okay? So here's the painstorm method. This is a repeatable method you can use over and over, whether you're developing a new AI company or any kind of company. So you want to say to yourself, okay, somebody's overwhelmed, and then there's a signal. So when I'm overwhelmed, the first thing I do is I get irritable, I can't concentrate, it feels like the world is just flooding the water and I just can't see, okay? And then what happens is something that I'm working on, there's a system that breaks down. And there is the key opportunity. So let me tell you about something that happened to me on the way over here. So I knew that I couldn't fly nonstop from Los Angeles to Hanoi. And I knew I had to stop somewhere, so I was kind of thinking, oh, was I going to go to Japan? Or going to stop in Narita? Was I going to stop in Hong Kong? And I thought, I haven't been to Hong Kong for a while. I'm going to stop in Hong Kong. And because I travel so much, I know that I could easily get a flight from Hong Kong to Hanoi, right? It's a couple of hours, not a bunch of carriers in the east, no problem. So what did I do? I bought my ticket, Los Angeles to Hong Kong back to Los Angeles, because I thought I'll just get this round trip ticket to Hanoi and we'll go from there. Well, when you buy a nonstop ticket from Los Angeles to Hong Kong, you do not need a visa. Had I bought a ticket going from Los Angeles to Hanoi, I would have been prompted to get a visa. So I am checking in here with Mr. Senior Lecturer Mark Kramer on my mind. Now I've flown all this way, I'm exhausted, I have all these competing things going on in my mind, right? Like you, my daughter is a senior in high school and she's applying to colleges and she's texting me every 5 seconds and I'm going, I need to really concentrate here. And it doesn't matter. Got all these responsibilities. But I'm about to take off on Wednesday to come here, and they say you can't check in at Cathay Pacific. Why? Their documents are missing, and I re-uploaded my passport, and I just thought, okay, whatever, I don't know. What's up? I'm tired, so we'll figure it out. So let's put this example into painstorm. Unwanted responsibility. Well, I've got to check myself in, I've got to get myself to Hanoi, right? I promised Mark that I'm going to be here and I'm going to do a great job and I want to deliver high value to you. But I realize there's something wrong. So what do? I Google, do I need a visa for Vietnam? Now mind you, I have been to Vietnam. This is my 3rd trip to Vietnam. I love Vietnam. Okay, you would think I would remember this. I swear I checked. Nope. Yes, you need a visa for Vietnam. Okay, so now I'm in panic mode. My flight is leaving in a few hours. I'm Googling this. I come up with this very clever, by the way, this company, I can't even imagine how much money they make. They're probably designed just for people like me. Get a visa, and the first bullet point is, get a visa in 2 to 4 days or something. And I thought 2 to 4 days, my God, the hackathon is going to be finished. Okay, Mark is going to kill me, and that's the end of my life. I'm never returning to Asia. But then they said, okay, then the next tier down was, okay, get a visa in, 1 day. Then it was get a visa in 4 hours. By now I'm texting my assistant, about to lose my mind, because I'm thinking to myself, how have I done this presentation? I've got everything totally organized. I've gotten all the way here. I've put all my work stuff. I've handled my daughter and her applications. And I don't have a visa to get into the country. So I put my assistant on it, I'm on it, I'm messaging on WhatsApp with these visa people. Anyway, the bottom line is, we can get you, ma'am, a visa in 2 hours. Well, my flight was leaving in 3 hours, so I thought that's fine. If I told you what I paid for that visa, it was more than my flight to get from Hong Kong, okay? And my assistant said, well, after all this paperwork and all this other stuff, she said, well, good news, they'll meet you at the airport. And I said, I don't need them to meet me at the airport. The only thing I need is this visa. Okay, well, thank God I got it. Because when I got to the airport to go to check in, they said, you know, you've got to print this out. So I had unwanted responsibility. But my capacity was exceeded, right? I had no, talk about capacity, I was already jet lagged. I already had 1,000 things on my mind, but I couldn't stop. I had no space to, so what do? I'm just Googling, trying to figure out a solution. And I was totally under pressure. So then what happened? So the true cost, well, I definitely had a true financial cost, right? I had to pony up that credit card no matter what. I was so stressed out and emotional because I thought, I'm beating myself up, I can't believe I've done this. Now my assistant is upset. Remember, when I was in Hong Kong, it was 16 hours ahead, so here she is, she's working on her regular work that I'm going to say, hey, when is that going to be done? But what was happening was these invisible costs. If you looked at me in my hotel in Hong Kong, or you saw me going to get a coffee while I was trying to figure this out, you might not have noticed anything, right? Because this was all going on in my head. But that is where it was so important, and I was willing to pay so much to solve the problem. So now I want you to think of some universal problems, right? You have family-run businesses here. How many of you have family-run businesses or generational businesses? Nobody? Okay, all right. That's okay, I know you do. All right, you've got education and overseas studies. So have you ever tried to navigate, right, the first time you go onto a portal or onto a government website and you try to do something and you can't figure out, it looks totally foreign to you, right? Probably very similar for me flying from the US to here, and my Vietnamese is non-existent. Or family caregiving, right? You've got a situation where you've got an aging parent. Well, in the States, this is the case study I'm going to go over with you. We have something that's called the sandwich generation. So I'm in the sandwich generation, right? I have 3 kids of my own. Granted, they're getting older. But I also have a father who's aging. So how does that work? I've got a system failure that is in plain sight, right? So I'm an adult and I'm balancing my work life and I'm balancing my kids. But at the same time, I've got my dad who's older and he's got needs. Well, let me ask you, is anybody in this room, if their mom or dad all of a sudden called them and you're in the middle of the hackathon and you're working on something and your mom or dad calls you and says, you know, I'm having a heart attack, I think I'm going to die, but you're not going to drop everything and go and help them? Of course you are. So I want you to see, in this case, the overwhelmed actor would be, in a Western situation, somebody like me in the sandwich generation, right? I have work, I have kids, I have all these things going on, and now I have a parent who needs something. Now, I'm an event planner, right? I write business books. I have no idea how to take care of my dad if he falls, or if he needs wound care, or if he needs physical therapy, or what happens when the insurance doesn't cover somebody coming to the house. I have no idea, but what happens? I just have to deal with it. I've got to figure it out really fast, and the emotional stakes are very, very high because I don't want to let my dad down. So, the most important thing for you to think about is, where does the friction live? Is it with the family roles? Is it with the communication? Is it with your applications and all of your different government resources? But typically in these situations, the burden falls on one person, and that is crucial. And that is what you've got to figure out. Who has got that invisible suffering? But the key thing is, you can't necessarily read it on their face. So here's the AI opportunity that I'm posing for you. The opportunity is in creating relief not efficiency. So if I say to you, hey, listen, I want you to take this big PDF document and I want you to come up with some AI solution so that the document can be turned into a Word doc, right? That's nice, that would be great, it would be much more efficient. But what if I said to you, I need you to come up with I need a plan to come up with a visa. I mean, which would I pay more for? Or I'm in the desert and it's so hot and I'm out of water and I need water. What are you going to pay more for? A bottle of water in the desert to make sure you don't die? Or the program that's going to help you take something from a PDF and turn it into a Word doc? Obviously, you're going to do something that's going to provide the relief. So I want you now to start thinking about this validation toolkit. How do you test this before you build? You don't need months to do it, but you still have to test it. So, validation step number 1. What I want you to do is find the overwhelmed actor. Find the person, not the person who is going to benefit from the service. So let's say my cousins, for example, I have a lot of cousins, and they take care of my uncle. Well, one of the daughters, lives very close to my uncle, so guess what? She's got the burden. She's the one that's overwhelmed. She's the one that if he falls, she's right there. Her siblings don't live as close, so naturally she has to deal with it, right? It doesn't matter the fact that she's got her own stuff going on. And so you've got to identify who is the person that is most in pain. The next thing is you've got to document the cost and how, and you want a cost that is so bad and so high. My cost for me not having this visa was astronomical. It was in every bucket. It was financial, it was emotional, it was I can't do this, it was professional, it was all those things. It's a perfect storm. So then what you need to do is you need to test the relief promise. Well, this company provided instant relief for me, right? I mean, granted, I had to give my credit card and it was a pain in the neck, but they provided instant relief. Now, let's say that you could take this one step further, and let's say that this company somehow sees that I'm booking on Cathay Pacific's website for a ticket Los Angeles to Hong Kong, right? Or let's see that the search engine sees that I'm searching for Hong Kong to Hanoi. Well, I need a visa. So what could happen in that process to prompt me to make sure I had 2 things to go to Vietnam? 1, a visa, and 2, the next most important thing, a SIM card. Okay? So if I could get, now when I landed in Hanoi, and I saw, and it was 2 things. It was money exchange and it was SIM cards, right? That was all, it was just money, SIM cards, and somebody wanted to, I can be your taxi, and here I have Grab. And if that instead, if somebody said, hey, listen, let's pay Cathay Pacific, or let's see what people are searching for who are going to this region and say, hey, buy now your electronic SIM card, right? Before you even get out of the airport, take care of these things, I would have done anything. Because guess what? I didn't have my SIM card yet. And I was so rattled about the visa that then I thought, oh my gosh, that's right. Of course, Uber isn't in Vietnam. I use it in Hong Kong, no problem. It's not, I need to use Grab. So what do? I try to go download the Grab app. Well, I'm in the airport with everybody else. I can't download it, blah, 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 blah. So now you see, here we go. So I was in that airport for quite a long time that I didn't need to be in if I had just done a little preparation, or if something had just prompted me to say, hey, listen, better get that SIM card. Now, what I want you to do, and how I want you to think of this, is I want you to put all these pieces together. And I realize this is a very quick crash course in how to start a business. But the concept is what I want you to take with you for the hackathon. How can you find somebody who is totally desperate for relief and provide them a quick and easy, frictionless opportunity to fix their problem, right? I needed a visa. If somebody was walking around saying, hey, listen, here's a visa, I mean, I would have done anything because I didn't know what I was going to do. Or if somebody was saying, hey, listen, I can handle this SIM card for you, I'll download it, and you're not going to have to wait and download Grab, I would have done anything. So think of the person who is most needy and most in pain, but has some kind of invisible suffering, and you'll know it when you see it and when you ask the questions. So if I say to one of you, and I say, oh, how's school going? And you're probably going to say, you know, it's going well, or maybe you're struggling a little bit with a particular class, but you're not that worried, you're very smart. But if I say to you, how's your mom? And your mom was just diagnosed with something, what's going to happen? Your face is going to, everything's going to change. Your face is going to change, your demeanor is going to change. Now it's serious stuff. So what I want you to think about in these future businesses is relief AI versus efficiency AI. And by creating relief AI, not only will you have people that are happier, and not only will you have companies that make money, but guess what? There is so much suffering in this world that relief AI can do nothing but create tons and tons of jobs. Now, why this works? People pay the most to escape roles they never wanted, circumstances they cannot get out of, and complexity they cannot avoid. So your new roadmap is to identify invisible suffering in broken systems. Where are people in the most pain that need the most relief? Pay attention to efficiency. Maybe it is efficiency plus relief AI. Spot the problems that people will pay the most. Think of you're in the desert and you are so hot and you're so uncomfortable you will do anything. And then validate that solution fast. Now I want to leave time for questions because I believe that the most valuable thing I can do up here is give you the concept of an idea to think about that you can carry with you through the rest of your working lives. But most importantly, I've built a lot of companies and made a lot of mistakes. More mistakes than could possibly fill this room. And that's where the magic will happen, is you all asking me questions and getting clarification on, I don't know, maybe what I wouldn't have done that I did. So to me, where the future of AI is going to be in building what others will overlook. Everybody's trying to just go faster, faster, cheaper, but I'm going to challenge you all instead to say, where are people suffering the most? And how can you bring a solution? Especially to people that never wanted that burden in the first place. Thank you. Now,
thank you, Ms. Major, for your valuable sharing. We are now opening the floor for a 10-minute Q&A session. If you have a question, raise your hand and a member of our team will bring a mic to you.
and while we're doing that, while we're getting set, this QR code, if you scan the QR code, it will take you to get a free download of my book called But Are You Making Any Money? Which is what matters in business, otherwise it's a hobby. And so that's my gift to you, is to scan that code and you'll get a free download. Okay, so we have who's brave enough to ask a question? Somebody has got to be brave enough to ask a question. You have IQs in here that we would only dream of in my family. Okay. This is frightening. If Senior Lecturer Mark is asking me a question, then I'm...
So the question I have is, I'm sure like the rest of us, you've been thinking about where are the opportunities in AI. And
So are there 2 or 3 areas that you go, these are really overlooked areas, and I think there's explosive opportunity, where they're not going to eliminate jobs, but where jobs can be created?
Absolutely. So I think if you think of yourselves, right, in the student situation when you are applying, let's say, for foreign aid, or you're applying for an application and it's so complicated. Well, let me tell you a couple very specific examples. In the US, and well, in a lot of countries, we have grants and subsidies, okay, that we can get. Now, I have hired grant writing companies. I have hired grant writing experts. I cannot tell you how much money I have paid to people supposedly to write these grants. But guess what? It isn't just writing the grants. It isn't just having a good idea that fits the grant writing process, right? It doesn't deem me, just because I should get it doesn't mean I will, because it is so complicated. So there's the SBIR and the this and the that, every acronym under the sun, and you just drown in these endless loops. And so if somebody could come up with an AI company that would match effectively, similar to a company that has taken, let's say, scholarships, and you match them with students who need them. Well, in this case, and it's free money, basically, and somebody will absolutely do it. With some of these grants for small businesses, there's $250,000. There's $1 million out there. There's $50,000. But getting into the system and then running the bureaucracy and the follow-up and then changing the words and all that stuff, that's all you need to do. The next thing I would say is absolutely positively, with this aging generation, is come up with a solution to share the burden of, as I say, the sandwich generation, or just managing older relatives. Because no matter what country you're in, right, it can be very complicated solutions or very simple solutions, but you have all these things like, there's one person responsible for driving them to their appointments, right? But you can't always get away. Is there some kind of app that you could, the Uber for seniors, but not? I mean, people have tried it and it hasn't worked. Or is there some kind of, let's say the siblings aren't getting along, right? Is there some kind of, like when you have divorced parents in the US, they have apps where they just communicate via the app only. But that's been a huge business. So is there a way that siblings who aren't getting along, or where there are multiple siblings or multiple people who want to go visit that older person, so they don't all go on the same day, right? And it might not sound like, oh, that's not that big a deal. But if you're in the situation, it's a huge deal. So keep thinking of, what do you hear people talk about? What has really frustrated you that you could wave a magic wand and say, okay, that's what I could fix? Yes.
Yes, I have a question, but before that, thank you very much. Your presentation full of energy, full of inspiration, and full of insight.
Thank you.
I think, give her a round of applause, another big round of applause to try all the way and hear how you shared, it's amazing. And I have a question,
Yes.
very practical one, for them to decide decision making. So they might come up with a few burdens, and they haven't kind of argue with each other, like, what should we focus on in this hackathon? So what could be the 2 or 3 criteria you should suggest to them, to define which one a burden, the frustration they should focus on?
Where is the highest cost? So we have that slide about the highest cost. So sometimes it's, listen, if I could apply for a grant and I could get a lot of money, that would be great. But I would say it's a high cost where you've got a situation where you're somebody, you're at work, you've got to manage your parents, and you just think of something that just bubbles up and is stress and anxiety and you don't know what to do. So I want you to just put yourself in that situation, or put your ideal customer in that situation, and think, oh my gosh, what gives me the most anxiety? Or what think of it in terms of the cost, but not always just the money. So think of it in terms of what resonates in your heart as that seems horrible or totally overwhelming. I think that's another great word, is if you can just say, what is totally overwhelming? Or where are you most stressed? I think if any AI, anything that could come up with a solution for traffic in Vietnam, I think is probably the best company you can come up with, right? Anything that's going to solve problems and make people's lives easier.
So students, do we have any other questions for Ms. Major?
Okay.
Question over there.
It's foggy for me, kind of, so somebody else can have to.
Thank you so much for your sharing. I want to ask that, as you said that there are invisible suffering, but how can we evaluate that invisible suffering in order to decide the price for our product or our solutions?
I'm sorry, how do you decide the price?
Yes, yes. How do we-
Well, you decide the price by asking questions, right? So you ask your target audience, and what you're looking for is, oh yes, I would do that in a second, right? So if somebody said to me, hey, listen, I will deliver a visa to your room for $1, okay, yeah, no problem, right? Or if somebody said, hey, listen, I will do this for, you're looking for that gut check. Now, for the hackathon, are they allowed to use AI to help with the AI or no? Okay, so what I would do then, after this, is I would plug into AI and I would say, give me some, and then fill in the blank about what your parameters are. Maybe your team wants to come up with invisible suffering for problems in the West or problems in the East, or put in some specifics and say, what has the highest cost? Who else is out there? And most importantly, what can I do better than all of them? That's the most important thing, is what problem can you solve better than the solution that's already out there? Sometimes that's just making it less expensive. But what you've got to do is you've got to see comparatively what else is out there, and then ideally talk to, or research, who your end customer is. And if there isn't anything like it that exists, then what I always like to do is I like to create a list of all the costs. So if I didn't get a visa, I would have to change my flight, which would be this amount, and then I'd have to do this, and stack all that stuff, right? And so then I could sell it to my end user as, this could cost you $1,000 in this, this, and this, but I'm gonna do it for a fraction. So I think that if you always rely on doing something for a fraction of what they're going to save, or a fraction of what they're going to make, going back to this whole grants and finding money opportunity piece, you're in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have time for one last question for Ms. Major.
So my question is that, considering a pain point you're trying to solve,
Yes.
so how do you actually estimate the scalability of your business trying to solve that?
Great question. So how do you decide the scalability, or like how big the problem is?
Yes. So just like, how do you estimate the ability of your business having the potential to grow even further?
To grow even further? Well, first of all, you want to, this is what I do. When I'm trying to brainstorm whether it's another business, or if I'm trying to brainstorm a different product or service offering that I'm going to do, I throw the mud at the wall and try to figure out, okay, where do I think I'm headed? And then I start to zero in, and then I start to narrow things down, right? So you're going to have your criterion. And I think the biggest thing is to figure out how many people are suffering from that same problem, and there are no or few or not very good solutions. Scalability, that then shows you, wow. So like there's a project that I'm working on right now to start up, and it is preventing the spread of wildfires, right? Well, the nice part about that is it can be scaled. I mean, it's a problem literally everywhere on the planet. So I know I don't have a scalability problem now. I think for the hackathon, what's going to be so important, and one of the things that we're going to be judging on is how much, is it just a problem that Vietnamese students at VinUni are going to suffer with? Or is it a problem that all Vietnamese college students are going to suffer? Or is it college students in general across the world? Now, I think the big opportunity, quite frankly, is that I think if one of you could create, and I think one of you are in a position to create, because I do not believe it exists, is an AI app for moms with teenage girls who are going through the college process of early decision and not getting in, and then their peers are getting in, because no matter what I say to my daughter, don't worry, it's going to work out, don't worry, this is going to happen, it's the wrong thing to say, it's stupid, it's whatever. So I think the biggest opportunity, and all my other friends are in the same boat, right, is how can we say it in words that the LOL generation who's on TikTok find it appropriate. I would pay anything, because then guess what? I'm not going to have the strife at home. I'm not going to have all the anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. So scalability is how many people in the world can you get to suffer with that invisible pain? But in terms of aging parents, we know that people are aging and we're only getting busier. Does that answer it?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you once again, Ms.
Thank
Major,
you.
for your time and for such a valuable contribution to our hackathon.
We would now like to invite Senior Lecturer Mark Kramer to the stage to present a bouquet of flowers to Ms. Major as a token of VinUni's appreciation.
Let's thank Marley again for flying all the way from the U.S. to come here today. I know Marley because she was one of the guests on my show, The Best Business Minds. And she was one of our star authors, and she also won one of our international awards for her best business book. So again, thank you so much for coming, and what a wonderful speech and so timely for our students.
I loved it.